Comes around the corner for the final time, and Richard Murray of South Africa is going to win an Olympic distance WTS race for the first time in his career. He's taken down Mola, Burles, Vessel, Louis Brownlee, and beat them all by a distance. Fantastic day for Richard Murray.
Always wanted to win Olympic distance, and that was the one that I've won. And you know, both Brownies were obviously racing there as well, so it was like home turf. Which is like even bigger bragging rights. I remember when Alistair took me down in Cape Town. So something you'll never forget when one of your arch enemies type things in triathlon takes you down in your hometown. I think the thing with my heart condition, apparently I've seen the most difficult thing is the psychological part. Spend a few weeks, you're kind of okay, and then you kind of have an episode where you kind of don't trust your body anymore. And I think when you don't trust your body as an athlete, that's a problem.
The World Triathlon Championship Series is once again heading to Leeds. More than world title points on the line, the stories this weekend around Olympic qualification possibilities for the likes of Great Britain and the USA, and a host of individual athletes will be fascinating. And you can watch it all unfold on Sunday 6th of June from 12:45 local time on triathlonlive.tv. Now let's catch up with someone who knows a thing or two about how to win in the north of England. Today on the World Triathlon podcast, we welcome the one and only Richard Murray. One of the sport's great characters over the past 10 years, the South African has been an ambassador for the mental and physical toughness required to perform at the top level of triathlon. That toughness was tested earlier this year, however, when he was diagnosed with irregular heartbeat condition atrial fibrillation, which has kept him off the start list for this weekend's World Triathlon Championship Series Leeds, just as it did in Yokohama last month. So Richard, hi, great to have you on. Where and how are you?
Yeah, so I'm currently in the Netherlands now. This is kind of my, European summer base, but I've spent a lot more time here, so I could kind of call it home, but yeah. So I'm in the Netherlands, kind of 150 kilometers east of Amsterdam. Close to Enschede, and yeah, I've kind of been here since, for quite a bit of a year so far. And yeah, obviously having been diagnosed with a heart condition has been quite a blow this year in general. And yeah, more or less trying to pick up the pieces and just trying to keep things rolling along. And waiting until I kind of get a procedure done in the Netherlands where I can kind of fix my irregular heartbeat and sort of take it from there a little bit.
When did you discover this and that things weren't quite right?
Yeah, so it was kind of in January side, kind of start of January, and we were just doing some training, and kind of the week before I'd kind of got a little bit ill, and I kind of had a fever for one day, and I kind of thought nothing of it, and it sort of went away, and I got back into training, everything was back to usual, and then I kind of had some irregular kind of heart palpitations in a few days leading up to having kind of the first episode of irregular heartbeat. And I was in the swimming pool, and actually, luckily, I had my my swimming goggles. I can actually see my heart rate and everything while I'm swimming. Wow. So I was swimming, and normally I know what range I'm sitting in with my heart rate, and all of a sudden my heart rate just spiked to 160, 180. And I was just warming up, and I thought maybe something's incorrect, maybe some technology's out or something. But then I looked later, and it continued to do the same thing, and I moved things around, and it stayed the same, and I felt something in my chest didn't feel right. And it kind of felt almost like I had a bit of a muscle spasm in my chest. I thought, oh no, maybe it's my muscle, something's going weird, but it's actually my heart that was kind of going out of sync. And I literally told Rachel, I climbed out the pool and I was out of breath and everything. And I kind of said to her, no, something's not right. And she said, no, what is it? And I said, I can't breathe, and I feel like my chest is racing. And and I could still check my heart rate afterwards, and it was sitting quite a lot higher than usual, just standing there. And so kind of knew something was wrong there at that point already.
And presumably, I mean, you were just training, so you knew it wasn't a sort of anxiety thing or a panic attack type thing. Was it something that you'd ever experienced before and had just disappeared? Is it anything that you kind of, in hindsight, think, well, maybe that was something along the way and you'd shrugged it off?
Well, not really. I mean, it's kind of, as an athlete, you kind of, I wouldn't say you get used to dealing with the little small problems, but definitely as an athlete, you have to overcome things. And, especially if you're tired and training and those things, you've got to push through, and mentally you've got to be very tough at everything. And now it's kind of like the opposite, where I've got to almost be, really careful with myself and not overdo things, because, I would say a heart issue, if you tear a muscle, or you broke a bone or something like that, usually it heals, and you kind of get back onto your own way, really. But a heart is a bit more of a serious thing, and a lot of people obviously get a bit scared when they hear heart problems or heart issues. But the heart is generally just a muscle, at the end of the day. But obviously you've got to just take it seriously, and try and find ways of getting back to racing and being healthy again.
Presumably quite handy having Rachel Klammer, your wife, elite Netherlands triathlete as well, there. Is it the sort of thing that you might have been a bit more inclined to try and brush off, but having shared with her, she was perhaps a bit more, Richard, this is serious, we need to definitely do something about this? Or
well, yes and no. It's I think she's extremely, it depends on your character and how tough you are. And Rachel's very, very tough on herself, so she's not very soft on me either sometimes either, which in some instances is great, in some instances is not great. But I think we definitely bring the best out of each other, and definitely, obviously, she's there with me every part of the way. The thing is as well, she's a professional athlete too, so she's got to keep training, and she's trying to compete for the Olympics too. So I would say to a degree, I've kind of brought her down a little bit. I mean, it's, when someone very close to you, a husband or wife or somebody's having a serious issue, you can't not, well, if you don't care, it won't affect you, but it's definitely affected her quite a lot. And I mean, now she's trying to obviously focus, and I'm trying to, get myself right as well as help her. And the situation's kind of a bit up in the air a little bit. But yeah, kind of doing everything we can. But she's definitely behind me a lot, and her father is also he's a doctor as well, which is great. So next door, if something happens, I've got a doctor who can help me out, which is
reassuring.
Which is quite reassuring. And so I had to kind of make the decision whether I would get the procedure done in South Africa or in the Netherlands, and I kind of had to weigh up, like, family in South Africa versus Rachel and family and stuff here in the Netherlands. And so it was a very tricky time, and something to decide on. And so I think that was quite a tough decision to make. But definitely there's some top, my coach Louis de la Haye, he's had some athletes who have had the same heart problems and things as well before, which is quite good, in bad and good. But definitely, so they've gone to see a doctor here, and I'm going to kind of see the same doctor here as well, who's a cardiologist, who's going to obviously try and take care and look after the situation, which is good.
So the next step is this procedure. You're not quite sure when, obviously, a month and a half away from 2 months, I guess, from Tokyo. So what is the timeline looking like for you?
Yeah, so the tricky thing is that I know to be like on 100% form is kind of gone out the window, a couple of weeks or a month or two ago already. Right. You can only be so prepared for something. And I think as an athlete, where you are at any given moment. And so realistically, I know that I'm not going to be on top shape. It's pretty much impossible. But in the back of your mind, you always try and do everything you can, and believe in yourself as much as you can, because that's a big part of it. So I think, we're kind of waiting for the next couple of weeks, or to kind of find out when I'm going to get the procedure done, and then afterwards kind of see how long it takes for me to recover. Everyone's a bit different in the recovery phase. Some people can take a couple of, a week or two type of thing, and they can get back to some mild or basic exercises. But I think, as a professional athlete, the word mild and easy is very different from the average person. So definitely going to have to see how the recovery goes. Rachel is actually going to Leeds World Series tomorrow evening. And then she goes from there on to France, to Font-Tremouth altitude camp. So I'm going to kind of be on my own, which is, a difficult thing. She needs to go and prepare for Olympics, and I need to get myself right. So I don't want to hold her back from, being the best she can. So it's a difficult scenario a little bit, but a lot of people have had the procedure done before. It's quite a common thing, especially for top athletes to have, and a lot of people have ablations and things done. Generally, it's fine. So, I think that's the big thing, to make sure we both do what we need to a certain degree.
And you're able to obviously maintain a level of training at the moment. You haven't, it's a case of dialing that right back rather than knocking it on the head altogether.
No, exactly. I think that's the the thing. I've kind of had to learn where the limit is, and kind of stay within that. And I definitely noticed kind of like it's kind of sounds weird, but, on the front of, anxiety, and on the front of not knowing what's coming, and a lot of things from last year, Corona and all these things happening all at the same time has been quite a lot to deal with. And so, yeah, I definitely think on the training side, I kind of stick to 2 to 3 hours a day of training, very low intensity. And so, yeah, I can't do anything too exciting or too hard before I kind of have a bit of an episode of my heart. So I've noticed every time after I've done a hard swim, it's been like an hour or two afterwards, and I've had like, the swimming being the most taxing for me out of the three. And so could be a combination of things to do with breathing, oxygen, things like that. And so, yeah, hopefully we can figure that out so I can, continue being an athlete. And if not, I was already at the start of the year kind of told to kind of hang up my racing shoes in January. And yeah, having heard that from a doctor, from a cardiologist saying, your career's finished, you can go and get a usual job is what I was told. And I kind of thought, like, what is a usual job?
Yeah, break it to me gently. That's
yeah, I thought, Jesus, and my father was there and Rachel was there, and they were both like, oh my goodness, like
this isn't going to work.
This is not the best scenario.
I mean, obviously in the intro, I mentioned your mental toughness and physical toughness and so on. Is that, is that how you would describe yourself? Do we see the same sort of Richard Murray that Rachel sees?
Yeah, no, I mean, the thing is on social media, you see one side, and then, on podcasts and on live streams and on other things and stuff, you get more of a reality. But it's definitely psychologically been, I think the thing with my heart condition, apparently I've seen the most difficult thing is the psychological part of it. You kind of spend a few weeks, you're kind of okay, and then you kind of have an episode where you kind of don't trust your body anymore. And I think when you don't trust your body as an athlete, that's a problem. And so, yeah, it's been a roller coaster of, okay, after the first time I was getting better, I wouldn't put it out there on social media. I'm going to kind of see how it goes. Then it happened the second time. And both of the first two times it happened, I was traveling to Namibia. It was 2 days before traveling to go somewhere, which was also quite interesting. And both of them were going to Namibia because we went to Namibia camp twice. And then it happened a third time in Namibia after a week again. And I kind of thought, like, okay, now I'm going to now tell everybody, because I can't keep not pretending, but, everyone knows something was wrong, but I just didn't want to, put it out there too early. You don't want to, what is this? I think it's a waking arrest. I don't know what the exact sentence is. I think it's awaking, arresting dogs or something, sleeping dogs or something like that. So yeah, I think that was the case. And then just letting everybody know about it. So everyone, our sponsors, federation, triathlon community, everybody knows kind of what's going on.
Looking back, are there times through training, I guess inevitably perhaps, but you have like felt that you've pushed yourself right to a limit that you would then be thinking afterwards, right, I don't want to necessarily go there again anytime soon?
Not really, no. Unfortunately, I think the thing is, an athlete, there's a few times in a year where you can push yourself. I mean, there's a couple of athletes that can actually push themselves. I'm not going to say past where they probably should push themselves, but there's obviously, you can definitely dig a hole, and some people can dig a hole, I wouldn't say more than others, but can definitely push themselves until breaking point. And yeah, I think that's a little bit, it can come around from just many years of endurance sports and on intensity. So we're hoping that's not the case. Otherwise, I might be in trouble not being able to push myself again. But yeah, definitely looked at, already different, possibilities of stuff after sports already quite a lot over the last couple of months. Just, when it might be the end, you start, looking at what's next a little bit. So it's definitely, not done yet, but definitely waiting to see, after the procedure, how things go, and kind of take it from there a little bit.
Yeah, I suppose you have to be philosophical in that situation, don't you? And if it's sort of out of your hands entirely, then. But trying to stay positive, particularly after the year. I mean, so last March, April, when Tokyo was obviously postponed officially, at that point in your preparations, how were you feeling? Were there any niggles? Were you like, this is looking really good, or was there any reason why perhaps the postponement you were looking at in a positive way as well?
No, I would have actually preferred last year to win the Olympics. Actually,
Yeah.
I was in some pretty good shape the year before. I think I'd had a bit of an up and down year. I think I got injured just before that, so kind of had like quite a bit I wanted to prove. And my form and stuff, the lead up last year, I was probably in some of the best shape that I've been kind of in, kind of January, February, March out. I was in some pretty good shape last year. And then there was obviously no racing and stuff. And I think a lot of athletes, when you kind of go all in and then it doesn't happen, and then, now preparing for this year's Olympics and then I have this, it's just, it's been pretty tough. I mean, it's been a tough couple of months, tough year already. But yeah, you got to obviously kind of look, forwards to what you obviously can do. And I think, being able to, for me to still be able to exercise on a low level now is still enjoyable. And, the sun's come out, it's getting to summer in Europe. So it's definitely worse places to be now. So yeah, I think you got to look at the positives.
For sure. And having Rachel alongside you for the majority of the year and the seasons and so on is obviously a huge bonus, and has no doubt kind of shaped your career, both your careers, in ways that you can't really kind of quantify, I suppose. But when something like last year happened, does it also magnify the negative a bit?
Yeah, well, I mean, definitely. There's definitely a couple of moments where, especially in training and things now, like to try and stay motivated now doing training where all I'm doing is keeping myself fit before an operation, is quite challenging. And I don't know really when that's going to be either. So I'm going to say we've become very used to preparing for something that is going to happen sometime. We've become very professional. We've become very good at doing that, which I'm not sure if that's a good or a bad thing. But I think as humans, we did. You got to develop, or you got to just go with the times and do what you can a little bit. But there's definitely been some tough moments, and especially being here as well. Rachel's going to leave shortly. I'm going to be on my own after operation. Try not to lose my mind too much. But yeah, I think I'll figure perhaps I'll learn some more Dutch and do some other things that I should be doing that I've been neglecting. But I think there's always something that I can do and be part of. Maybe make a YouTube video every day if I'm bored, something like that.
Totally.
Give it a try.
How is the Dutch? I mean, you train with them a lot, right? So do they speak? Is it exclusively Dutch on your training camps, or? On
the camps it's pretty much exclusively Dutch. The worst thing though is the Dutch are the best English speaking outside of the UK. And obviously other English-speaking nations, but I mean they can turn over to English like at the drop of a dime. Where
totally, so it feels like they're doing it deliberately.
Extremely difficult then to learn. I mean, if it was Chinese or it was Russian or whatever, then you would have no other option but to learn. But there are a lot of things in English here and things. But definitely my Dutch is getting better. But I think it's the point of me having a full-on conversation. It's probably not there yet, but I can definitely get by with the day-to-day, which is good.
You mentioned your dad was there when you were diagnosed, and that was obviously presumably a massive help. How he was a sportsman as well, right? Was it in a similar field? Do you think you get your desire and ability to push yourself from him?
Well, definitely. I think, you're obviously a makeup of your parents to a certain degree and kind of how you've been brought up. So it's definitely, in the genes to giving up is kind of not an option. Unless it's kind of, I think my father, the thing is as well, I think the story with my father kind of almost lost his leg when he was 20 years old or something, or 19 or 20 in a motorbike accident. And he told him, no, he wants to keep the leg. So they kind of fused his leg in 5 parts to keep his leg together. And they said, you'll never walk again. It's not going to happen. And 7 years later, after crutches, he was walking again. And then he went back to the doctors and they told him, told you I'd walk. And I thought, geez, that's quite a story. But I definitely think the will to continue and the will to keep going is obviously definitely in my family a little bit. Yeah, you could say so.
Yeah. And I mean, going back to Rachel and what that must bring to your seasons, to both of your seasons. I mean, just interested to hear what your take is with Rachel. I don't even know, how long have you guys been together sort of on the circuit? And like I said, presumably you can't put your finger on, you can't quantify how different your career would have been without her. And it's not necessarily, I'm not talking about like results and so on, but just the day-to-day of a triathlete.
Yeah, no, well, it's definitely, it definitely changed a lot. I remember when I started with the Joel Filial group in 2013 or 12, somewhere around there. And then I met Rachel not long after that in 2013. And then we were both with Joel and them for a good couple of years, where we kind of grew a lot as athletes and learned a lot about ourselves and about coaching and everything. And from that, then obviously decided to go kind of our own way a little bit and to be more settled, come to Europe and spend more time in the Netherlands just to get a little bit more of a home base, not spring chickens anymore. So it was definitely good to do that. And yeah, definitely has been a pretty awesome journey. It feels like a really short journey so far. I mean, I'm 32, so it should be like my prime years now. And then last year and this year's story has been an interesting one. So you never really know when the great years are going to be. I think you realize the great years after they've come, you kind of realize when they were. I suppose that's a kind of a standard thing a little bit, but it's definitely, it's been pretty awesome. And to have somebody to train with every single day and to be with every single day is amazing. And to try and obviously remove ourselves from the athlete sometime as well, because we're continually training together and we're together every single day, 24 hours a day. So it's pretty full on, but yeah, I think we work very well together and we complement each other, which is good.
Yeah, I suppose it is also how that informs the build-ups to races, right? And that was something that was obviously magnified before Yokohama, where none of the athletes were able to pursue what their normal preparation would be. Some obviously just hang out in the hotel rooms, and that's kind of what they prefer to do anyway. But some obviously like to get a bit of distance, and you could tell that was perhaps something that was affecting some athletes more than others in Yokohama, do you think?
Yeah, I think that, well, obviously the isolation stuff in Yokohama has been pretty tough. And I think on a lot of athletes, mentally wise, last year and stuff has been very, very tough. Especially for juniors, people just starting up as an athlete. I wondered if I had just started and said, okay, this is my first year being a pro, and then nothing happens. You'll probably be thinking, was this a good idea? Should I do something else? It's probably a completely different take at how things obviously, occurred last year. And from a professional side, obviously sponsors and racing, a lot of athletes are reliant on prize monies and those things and stuff. So it was very, very tough financial sponsorship wise and those things. And I was very lucky to have my sponsors continue with me for this year, the Olympic year, because a lot of companies and stuff had obviously struggled during Corona. So it's definitely been good. But yeah, I think, not having racing for quite a long time and be able to race again for the first time has been pretty amazing, actually.
And well, I guess you used quite a lot of the kind of year off as it was to reach out to your fans more, right? The YouTube channel's kind of taken off, and obviously like it's all things like that, and your sponsors being really on board and so on. Like, it all feeds into being able to do what you do.
No, definitely. I think, I kind of had to try something different and learn new skills, and I found that kind of kept me entertained to a degree, and kind of spiraled into something a little bit bigger. But I definitely find it's a much better medium to get across to people and get across to other athletes and people, just to give back a little bit is quite nice. So a lot of the things I'm actually doing is actually nice to actually give that information or give things to people. Not just, the fact in it growing and becoming something, but it's definitely kept myself entertained. And it was more or less from doing my own running events and things, and then just posting that online and thinking, oh, this actually doesn't do too badly, and kind of learning from there. But it's a whole different ball game, the whole online scene, to do with making YouTube videos and editing and all these things. But it's been pretty good fun so far, so I enjoyed.
Yeah, well, it's obviously a big part of you obviously take time to read people's comments, respond to people's comments, and to be able to do that, particularly in a community like the triathlon community is pretty important. The details matter a lot, don't they?
No, definitely. I think there's, I wouldn't say the amount of people that would probably, reply to those things. I'm wondering, I'm like, now it's okay. I'm like, what happens if I get hundreds of comments? I'm like, that's going to take me like a week to reply to everything. but I think now that it's still small, it's probably still doable. And there's also like a membership thing. So a lot of the time I'll obviously make it an important thing to reply to the members of the channel. So people can become members of the channel as well, which is pretty cool. And they can direct message me and those types of things, which is quite cool. And so, yeah, I think it's kind of a different medium. And then hopefully I'm going to probably convert it into like a coaching type platform down the line once it's kind of matured a bit more. And yeah, that's kind of a little bit the plan of it.
And you're already sussing out, presumably, what people are interested in, what they want to find out, and so on, and then you just build from that.
Yeah, no, that's a little bit the kind of the plan. More of it like kind of a startup in itself a bit.
Well, obviously this weekend is disappointing for you not to be in Leeds, but presumably it's also not a race that you mind talking about too much. Fond memories? No,
definitely. I think it was probably one of my best events that I had of my career. I think there's three that stand out, but Leeds is definitely the one that's like the Olympic distance. Always wanted to win Olympic distance, and that was the one that I've won. And it was quite a special day. The funny thing as well was with Leeds is I did the team relay I think the race there, I did the team relay 3 days before, and I was wondering if that was going to be good or bad, and it actually ended up being good. So some of the times you think like I was wondering what were the other athletes, did all the other top athletes also do the team relay in Nottingham and then drive down there? But yeah, it was a pretty amazing day, and I felt probably the best that I've felt in a race. And yeah, it kind of was a bit of a weird race because I kind of went off the front at the start and then expected everyone to catch me, and then they kind of just didn't. And I thought, well, they will catch me. And then I thought, well, this is 5K. Maybe they haven't caught me, so maybe I could take this. And so it kind of like evolved during the race. And yeah, it was pretty cool. Mario ended up like almost coming back at me in the final K or 2K or something. And the coach was like, Mario's coming back at you. And I thought, oh, no, I really have to go all in now. Otherwise I'm going to lose it.
But that's what I was thinking. I mean, you'd got into that great position off the bike, right? So you were kind of leading what was a pretty large group in there. Coming out, obviously very little in it. But when you're spearheading a little group like that and you know that you've got Mario and Vince behind you and you know how good they are, it must be a strange feeling to know that they're just like, this is, we're on the back of this is what we have to do, and all you've got to do is just try and maintain or extend.
No, I think it's definitely a thing of being chased. I mean, I'm usually the one being the chaser, not the one getting chased. That's kind of how my whole career. I remember speaking to Johnny the one time at the event, and I was just saying, like, I've spent like 10 years chasing you. It's like a career. There should be like a book, a book of like the chase, where I had to like continually try and catch the Brownlees or like in the front group for like my whole career, which it's and obviously there it was both Brownies were obviously racing there as well, so it was like home turf, which is like even bigger bragging rights. I remember when Alistair took me down in Cape Town, so something you'll never forget when one of your arch enemies type things in triathlon takes you down in your hometown. But it's definitely it was a pretty cool race, and having my coach Louis there was also great. And it was also after a spell of a whole bunch of bad races and say bad luck, but it was just almost like a year of just bad racing a little bit. And then I think you get really you have that part where you're like, when is the drought going to end?
Yeah, and boy did it end. I mean, even over that last final 300 meters, Mario might have been slightly closing the gap, but you looked effortless. I mean, you probably knew by that stage it was an unassailable lead, and that helps, I guess. But did you, through the 10K, were you able to kind of keep it on kind of a level, or were there moments of just like, oh, this is gonna? Well,
actually, no. It was actually, I felt like I was in control for most of the run. Obviously, the uphill, that course is a very, very tough course. So probably for a course that would be good for me, that'd probably be a good course. The bike course I actually came I think it was like 5th last out the water in that race. And in the swim, I was like, I'm going to quit triathlon. I'm done with this. This is not my thing. My swimming is just getting worse. And and then got on the bike with Bloomy and a couple of other guys that just like put the absolute hammer down. And so we actually ended up, I think, making it a minute 20 or a minute 15 deficit to the front guys.
Right.
So, and then, yeah, I think on the run, it was a tough run course. It's got a climb on. It's pretty warm as well. So yeah, it was, I think a lot of the things pay a little bit into my favor on that day. And even on the bike, I didn't feel particularly great. My legs didn't feel really responsive. And I thought, I don't know how the run's going to go, but I'll just sit in here on the bike and just, hopefully we get through. So it was quite a good scenario actually, but you got to take, the race as it comes of it.
Yeah. At the end, like even Mario looked absolutely sort of thrilled for you. I mean, I suppose that's kind of a mark of him as a character as well, is it?
Yeah, no, well, I think, I've also known Mario since kind of my first international race, when I think I raced in, I think it was in Rimini in 2008, if I'm not mistaken. We were at World Triathlon Champs or Junior Triathlon Champs, and he was there, Johnny was there. And I think that's kind of the first couple of times we competed against each other and trained together, obviously, for a good couple of years under Joel. So it's always good. It's the same with Heavy when Heavy does well, or you're always happy for someone to do well.
And in 2019, Leeds was personally like one of my favourites in terms of the pre-race hype. Before was all about the Magnificent Seven and you and Javi coming back and Mario and so on, and then Jake just came in and blew it away. In spite of all that, Vincent obviously finished last year incredibly strongly, but perhaps didn't have the race he would have wanted in Yokohama. And to be able to look across a start line like we will in Leeds certainly, but almost certainly in Tokyo as well, and not be able to pick who you think, not be able to pick a winner. Obviously, everyone will have an opinion, but it's exciting, isn't it? I mean, you have era-defining athletes, and it's brilliant to have someone like a Javi Gomez dominate for a long time, or Gwen. But at the time, to see a start list and just not have a clue who's going to come out on top is pretty exciting for the sport.
Yeah, no, definitely. It's not. I mean, it's not often where you have all the top athletes on one start line. And the one thing, the interesting thing is I noticed the Olympic race is also different to a World Series race, which probably a lot of people won't realize or won't know. But the field is actually slightly less dense than it is at a World Series race, where obviously you get there on points and everything, and the top athletes in the world will be there. Whereas the Olympics, obviously, there's slots and things and stuff. So it actually, the second group and those things, it's all dependent on where the athletes are. But for me as an athlete, it's always really important to see who's going to be in the second group, how strong is it going to be, and it definitely changes when it comes to the Olympics, as well as obviously the swim course changes sometimes to a 1-lap swim. I think it's still 2 laps in Tokyo. But yeah, I definitely think it's going to be interesting. Obviously, with the heat playing even more of a factor, Rio was supposed to be like the hottest race ever, but Japan is definitely hotter than it is in Rio. And yeah, definitely something that I am looking forward to, I'm kind of not sure where I lie a little bit, but it's definitely, it definitely would be a course that I would love to go and race hard in. A little bit like Mexico and Cozumel, which was also extremely warm. But yeah, kind of the hard courses and stuff, and the lighter athletes will fare better as well. So the likes of probably Henry and Tyler Misachuk and, kind of a lighter body athletes definitely feature well in the heat.
Yeah. And Rachel is, like you said, on her way shortly to Leeds. How's she feeling? Obviously, there's plenty of other little stories going on around the race as far as the Olympic qualification is concerned. And for you and her, tending to be able to stay out of that must be quite nice. Olympic periods in general over the years, I guess.
Yeah, no, I think it's definitely, it is good. And I think, to be able to do Olympic distance race in the year of Olympics is also quite important. And yeah, I think, Leeds is also quite close by here. So it's quite accessible for us from the Netherlands. That's kind of one of the reasons why Rachel sat Yokohama out a little bit, just because of the travel there and the being indoors. And so she kind of decided to rather do training. And when you don't go to a World Series race, people look at the start list and why aren't you there racing? And they don't usually know the reason why you're not always doing a race. But yeah, it's definitely close, accessible, and the course is also quite tough now in Leeds. Well, it's always tough in Leeds, but kind of in their park, and they've got kind of a whole bunch of hills where they kind of go round and round and stuff. So it's going to be quite a tough course as well, which is going to be interesting to watch.
For sure. And Lucy Charles Barkley, for example, on the start list, which is, we've got people like Flora back, but Lucy as well. And I mean, obviously, she's not done a race like this before, but still has the swim and potentially some of the bike to really have an impact on the race, right?
Yeah, no, I think she's going to be actually. Well, I don't think Leeds will be like the Lucy Charles show, but because I mean, she's the first. When she came to Super League, it was a little bit like that, complete unknown, a little bit. But she's definitely not unknown when it comes to the swimming and the biking. She's definitely going to be up there, probably leading the race on the water. Wouldn't be surprised. But I don't know how many times she's actually swum, in the chop of it and in the smash fest in the swim. So that could be interesting to see as well. And yeah, I think it's going to be an interesting race to watch. I also watched some of her YouTube videos, her preparing for this race in Leeds. So quite entertaining. Yeah, I think it's going to be interesting to watch and to see how all the other girls go out there, and see how Rachel does as well. I'll be glued to the television. I think it's on Sunday, the event, isn't it?
Yeah. And obviously Maya Kingma has been doing very well. Has she been on the training camps with you guys?
She hasn't actually. No, she hasn't. She doesn't come to many of the camps, unfortunately, which is a bit sad. But no, I think she. You can. It's not compulsory to come to some of the camps, but yeah, she doesn't join much of the camps really.
Right. Leeds will also have its first para triathlon race on Saturday, and Jetsa Platt is someone who does come on several of those camps with you, doesn't he? I'd just be interested to hear. Obviously, he's in the PTWC wheelchair category, and an unbelievable athlete, and obviously that is partly why he is invited to come on those training camps as well. But just interested to get your take on him as a person and as an athlete as well, that when you've spent presumably a fair amount of time with him.
Yeah, I mean, he's probably one of the nicest guys we've come across. Very down to earth, super driven. Probably one of the. I wouldn't say he's more driven than some of us like able-bodied athletes, but definitely he's extremely, extremely professional. He does things in a kind of meticulous and kind of like a perfectionist way.
Mm-hmm.
But that definitely gets him out on top and gets him where he needs to be. And he has no problems swimming with most of the guys in the fast lane while we're swimming and stuff. And obviously while we're riding, he does all of his rides with us and everything. And he passes us in the downhills all the time because he's more aerodynamic, which is a bit unfair. But no, he's definitely an all-around pretty great guy. And very motivated, determined, and great to have on camp. I think he enjoys spending time training with us, and enjoys being with Louis Delahaye, our coach, as well when we're there. So yeah, he's definitely fits in well with the team when we're training there.
Yeah, he obviously sets himself a very high bar and quite often surpasses it, I would say. And for you over the last decade or so, you're obviously like a fiercely competitive person, and whether you're 8 years old playing in a local tennis tournament or an elite athlete, you always have those, you don't even know why, but like a rivalry or someone that you just always kind of right, he's my target, I'm going to beat him. Is there someone, rationally or not, over the years that has been that person for you?
It would definitely be the Brownies for sure.
Right.
I think there's been like a handful of times that I've beaten them over the career. And there's probably like a couple dozen times they've beaten me. So it's definitely obviously, with all the Olympic medals and the accolades and everything, they've definitely been the ones over the last 10 years, them along with Javi Gomez and Mario Mola. They've definitely been the ones I've had to compete against and try to, better every single time. And especially when it comes onto the run and it's Mario and myself on a run, there's, sometimes it could go either way when we go out together. So it's definitely, he's also been one that's it's almost like who's got the edge on the day that kind of takes it a little bit.
And it's those little those little rivalries that obviously every sport needs as well, wouldn't you say?
No, I think it's what keeps it exciting. I mean, if it was just someone goes off the front and wins automatically, it would be boring. So it's always, you got to have everyone being at their top, and it makes for the greatest show on earth. Well, maybe not on earth, but in triathlon for certain.
For sure. I mean, you mentioned that there were three races in particular through your career, but would you say there was a breakthrough race where you were like, either, okay, now this is the sport for me, or now I can mix it with the best, or what was the fondest one that you look back on, I guess?
Well, I think Hamburg 2012 was kind of my breakthrough race when I won kind of the race you're not supposed to win, the one before the Olympics. That's was my that was kind of my intro race into World Series racing, and then also got on the podium the first time in San Diego, and before that also in Australia and Sydney when they started the Sydney World Series race there. And that was the first time I got on the podium with Lauren Vidal and with Stefan Eustace. So yeah, that was quite a while ago, and that was the moment where I got on the podium and I thought, man, this is like my second World Series race, and I got on the podium. So it was quite a day. And so yeah, that year I think I got 3 World Series podiums in that year, in my first year of racing World Series. And then I kind of thought, gee, man, I could do this. Like, this could be me, you know. This is definitely, where I want to be. And I actually ended up racing better in World Series than I did in Continental Cups and European Cups and those things. You know, the whole field blows out completely, and then I ended up riding by myself with 1 or 2 other guys right at the back. And World Series is kind of, everyone's a bit closer together because the field is, it's less spread out. And so that's kind of where I thought, this is definitely me. And I was almost leading. There was one race I was going to go into where I would have been number 1 at race cap. And I decided to sit the race out in Madrid. And I was like, it was the first time I would have been number 1. And so it was, I sat that one out. But hopefully maybe one day we see how things go. You never know.
And the person you would say you owe your success to? And you're allowed to say yourself, obviously, if you're...
Probably, well, my success, I would say, probably my father to a degree, because he obviously started me getting out doing sports and stuff. And if I hadn't gone and done sports in the first place, I wouldn't have continued doing sports probably. And then obviously, coaches and everyone along the way, because I think you're only as good as the people around you that help you to be you. So yeah, I definitely think everyone that's been part of the journey definitely needs a mention.
And if not a triathlete, then what?
Probably be a sports scientist, or I actually wanted to study sports science. So very interested in the science of sports, and probably would have been a sports scientist in some degree, I think. I was going to say like a YouTuber or a yacht salesman or firefighter or something along those lines, but
I think yacht salesman, that's got legs.
Yeah, I think that's just going, or property salesman, property developer, something like that also.
How was the punditry experience with the arena games there?
It wasn't too bad. Yeah, I mean, I kind of I've done commentary in 1 or 2 events. But yeah, I definitely kind of like the dynamic of how the races unfold and how things happening. So definitely some commentary down the line would be something that I'd be pretty interested to do. And coaching as well. I plan on coaching down the line. So it might be a kind of a mix of a mixed bag full of things.
Yeah.
But yeah, definitely I don't like doing one thing at a time. Just doing one thing is a little bit boring. So it's the same with like doing management. And I think as a professional athlete, you're like not just a professional athlete, you're a travel agent and you're a sponsorship manager, and it's just like a whole bunch of.
And you do 3 sports. I mean, there's a theme here.
And you're doing some sports. Yeah, it's definitely a full-time job.
Brilliant. And you'll obviously be watching this weekend, Triathlon Live, women's race 12:45, men's at 3:45. Cheering on Rachel from home?
Yeah, definitely. No, I think that, definitely looking forward to watching and schedule my massive training schedule around it. So it should be good.
Brilliant. Well, obviously, the very best of luck with the procedure and the recovery and so on. And I know, a lot of people will be hoping very much to see you on that Tokyo start line.
Yeah, no, thank you. Yeah, hoping for all the best, and I'll keep everyone updated on how everything's going. And yeah, hope, holding time. I'm still preparing my Olympic bike now, so hope has not been given up yet.
Brilliant. All right, great. Thanks, Richard.
Cheers, no problems.